The Miz is our new WWE champion, and no, it is not 2010. This really happened. We continue on with the AEW Eliminator Tournament, and I give my transphobic and women-hating thoughts on the tournament. I have finally made up my mind on what I think about Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega happening in an explosive barbed wire death match. And then finally, we preview both the New Japan Pro Wrestling Castle Attack Night 2 match card and Stardom's All-Star Dream Cinderella show coming up next Wednesday. We'll talk about all this and more right here on the 35th edition of the Chill Spill Podcast. The S is silent, by the way. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Tyler Mask, aka Tyler Coon Williams, aka Tyler Suplex, aka the one who lived. And welcome back to the 35th edition of the Chill Spill Podcast. And that is pill spelled with an S, but it's silent, much like all the weird ass Joshi stands were after I dropped my video announcing that I was transphobic and all the comments I made about my AEW Eliminator Tournament review last week. Anybody notice how I got ratioed on Twitter practically for having a different opinion? Basically. Now, once again, the transphobic comments, they were denounced. I'm not transphobic once again. I spoke my piece on it. I'm not going to speak on it again. You can literally watch my video if you want to know how I came across to them and how I meant to come off. It was a thing that was completely misrepresented, but at the same time, also something that I messed up on and how I came off, and I said my piece on it already. But anybody notice how people were so quick to try and cancel me on Twitter, but then as soon as I dropped my response video, nobody had anything to say? No apology, no retweets, nothing. Nobody had anything to say. But once again, big shout out to all of you who did come to my defense on that video and in the defense video. You guys are really the best. It doesn't even, you guys don't even know how much that meant to me, that a lot of you came to my defense, and a lot of you knowing what I meant, or knowing that that's not what I meant, knowing that's not how I am. Like, that's all that matters to me, you know. The whole ratioing thing, yeah, your boy was a little taken aback for about a few minutes, but after the fact, you know, those comments that I got, they uplifted me a lot. So thank you guys so much for all of your comments and your support. To all the Joshi fans listening to this right now, I love Joshi wrestling. I'll put it that way. I love Joshi wrestling. I don't know everything about Joshi wrestling, but I love it. So I will continue to watch it. I will continue to comment on it. And I will continue to critique what I do and don't like. If you don't like it, please do yourself a favor and don't listen to it. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That being said, let's get straight it, or continue to listen to it, because you know what? Whenever you tune in to my videos, even if you're hate watching, whenever you tune in, I'm getting views off of it. So do yourself a favor, keep on listening. Matter of fact, keep on listening. That being said, let's get straight in to the rest of the podcast. So the first thing I feel like we should talk about here is WWE, which I have slowly but surely incorporated more into this podcast as this is going on. But The Miz is a hot topic in WWE today because he's our new WWE champion, if you didn't know by now. Elimination Chamber was just this Sunday. I did not watch Elimination Chamber. It was my grandmother's birthday. She turned 63. Happy birthday, Grandmother Williams. Mama Williams. Well, I think Grandma Williams, because it wouldn't be Mama Williams, but you guys get the point. She turned 63. We went out for her birthday, so I completely missed the pay-per-view, but it's alright. I didn't really care to watch it anyway. On that pay-per-view, Drew McIntyre defended his WWE Championship against a bunch of 40-year-old men. Sheamus, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton for like the 18th time. There were some other guys in that match I can't really think about, but Drew McIntyre retained his WWE Championship in that match. He ended up getting laid out after the match by Bobby Lashley, who earlier in the night lost his U.S. Championship to Matt Riddle. Or Riddle, I should say, because there's no Matt in his name anymore. So he lost the championship. Now, it was weird because Keith Lee was originally supposed to be in that match. It was going to be a triple threat. It was going to be Bobby Lashley versus Riddle versus Keith Lee. But Keith Lee got pulled last minute. So it ended up being a singles match, and apparently Riddle won by not pinning Bobby Lashley. I don't know how he won. I didn't watch it. I didn't bother to watch it. So all I know is that Riddle won. I don't know what's going on with Keith Lee. He wasn't at the Rumble. He wasn't at Elimination Chamber. I hope he's okay. I like to imagine if it was COVID, it would have been done already, because if he had COVID during the Rumble was almost 30 days ago. You only have to quarantine for 14 days unless he's in poor condition. And I'm pretty sure he was on Raw like a week or so ago. Unless I'm drawing. I don't know. Maybe he's been out this entire time. I don't know what's going on with Keith Lee, but I hope he's okay. Either way, Riddle won the championship. So after his match, he beats down Drew McIntyre. Bobby Lashley does. And he lays him out with the Hurt Lock. Then you hear, awesome! And just like 2010, The Miz comes out. He cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase. He hits the skull-crushing finale, and Drew McIntyre kicks out, which I always love it when these guys kick out of the move. It kind of adds anticipation, like, oh, maybe they're going to retain a championship. Which, the Money in the Bank concept has been basically done way, way, way out of style. And I say that because think about the last crop of Money in the Bank briefcase holders, for the men at least, for the men. 2017 was Baron Corbin. He lost to Jinder Mahal, I believe, because of John Cena. I don't know. I know that he lost the championship to Jinder Mahal. Well, he didn't lose it. He lost the briefcase. I can't spit it out. He cashed in on Jinder and lost the opportunity to be WWE champion. There we go. 2018, Braun Strowman won it. And he cashed in at Hell in a Cell, but then he lost due to what? I don't even know what happened in the Hell in a Cell match with him, Brock, and Roman, but it ended in some bullshit manner, and people were pissed about it. Then 2019 Hell in a Cell happened. But then 2019, Brock Lesnar won the briefcase. Now, mind you, Brock Lesnar cashed in successfully, but he cashed in on Kofi Kingston, who he squashed in 9 seconds. So, completely kind of ruining the whole concept of briefcase once again. Then 2020, who was the briefcase holder in 2020? Oh, Otis. Otis won it in 2020. Then Otis lost it to The Miz, who then cashed in on Roman in a ladder match and lost it, only to get it back because you can't cash in during a ladder match apparently. And then he ended up cashing in successfully on Drew McIntyre. So, if you see what I mean here, the last 3 years of Money in the Banks have been a bunch of bullshit. So, excuse me if I really don't care much about the concept anymore. I still love the concept of Money in the Bank, but in 3 years' time, they have completely soiled it. Like SpongeBob. Soiled it. Soiled it. Soiled it. They completely soiled the concept of Money in the Bank, in my opinion. But, a successful cash in here, it's pretty good. The only thing I have a problem with, and I think the big issue I have a problem with, is that the cash-in came from The Miz. The Miz! The Miz, the same Miz, who won Money in the Bank 11 years ago. When did he win it in 2000? He won it in 2009, I think. Won it in 2009, cashed in 2010, was WWE champion when he was 29 years old. The Miz is now 40 years old. And this man cashes in, successfully cashes in, mind you, because he did end up beating Drew McIntyre to become the new WWE champion. And here is The Miz as WWE champion. Now, I saw people online who were pissed. I saw some people online who were actually pretty ecstatic about this. Me, myself, and I want to be pissed, honestly and truly, but I don't really care about this company enough to be pissed about it. It just makes me shake my head, honestly. Because like I said already, The Miz is 40. He's had his time. I don't really get what we gain from The Miz being WWE champion. Especially, I'll talk about that in a second. So, then we get into Raw that happened last night. Now, I didn't watch Raw either, but I did catch the clips of it on Twitter. Bobby Lashley confronted The Miz about being first in line for the WWE Championship because Bobby Lashley's the big part of the reason why The Miz is the champion. The Miz attacked Well, I mean, Bobby Lashley tracked Drew McIntyre, and then The Miz cashed in. So, one and one plays with each other. So Bobby Lashley basically confronts The Miz and says that I should be next in line. The Miz is like playing around, and Bobby Lashley's like, listen, by the end of the night, I better be next in line if we have an issue. I don't know how we get set up to this point, but Bobby Lashley goes up against Braun Strowman in the main event. The winner faces The Miz next week. Bobby Lashley wins. He lays out The Miz after the show and poses with the WWE Championship. So next week, it is official. The Miz versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship. All right, so everyone is pretty much has their whole mindset set on Bobby Lashley is going to beat The Miz and be the next WWE champion, and we're going to get Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I don't hate that idea. Number one, Bobby Lashley winning the WWE Championship is supremely overdue. Like, it is very, very much overdue. My issue comes in is that Bobby Lashley is also over the age of 40 years old. Now, Bobby Lashley is very, very fit for his age, very buff, and they've been pushing him like a true monster these last few months. So, if there were anybody who were worthy of being a WWE champion at the moment, it would be Bobby Lashley. However, my big issue here is that now you've had 3 title changes in 2021 already. Well, yeah, it would be, right? The Miz beats Drew, Bobby beats Miz, and then Drew beats Bobby. That would be 3 title changes if we get to the point where people are expecting. That would be 3 title changes from January to April. Which is kind of flip-floppy to me. I mean, it's not too many. It's not like we haven't had 3 title changes in a year before. But my big issue comes in with Drew McIntyre and how he's been positioned so far. Think about it this way. Drew McIntyre won the Rumble last year. Great moment in front of a crowd. COVID hits. It strips away crowds for basically the remainder of the year. Drew McIntyre goes to WrestleMania to beat Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Great. Great. So, after beating Brock, he runs down the line of beating a bunch of Raw talent, which is also great because you want to build Drew up as a star, and I feel like they've done a great job at that. Then you run into Randy Orton, which I never thought that Randy Orton was going to actually beat Drew McIntyre to become the WWE champion, but it happens. Randy Orton beats Drew McIntyre. Randy Orton becomes a 13-time or 14-time WWE champion, one of the 2 things. Drew McIntyre does end up beating Randy Orton to become the WWE champion again. He's now a 2-time champion. You fast forward to 2021, now Drew McIntyre has lost the WWE championship to The Miz. So he is no longer the champion. And now we're talking about Drew McIntyre facing off against either The Miz or or Bobby at WrestleMania, where he will likely win it back because everyone is so dead set on crowds needing to be there when Drew has his moment. Even though you could say he had his moment at the Royal Rumble. Yes, I understand. I completely understand that Drew McIntyre was robbed of having the crowd behind him when he beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania last year. I understand it. But the notion that we need crowds in order for moments to happen, seems, for me, it's null and void. I feel like after going through an entire year, it will be an entire year next month, an entire year with no crowds amongst all of wrestling shows for multiple months at a time, the whole we need crowds, we need to wait until crowds come back to have these moments, to have these big matches. It's been a whole year, guys. Are you really still sitting on the fact that we need to have people reacting to this stuff for it to really mean something? I mean, come on now. I just feel like it's kind of, I just feel like it's very negligent and rude to the wrestlers to say, oh, well, we're gonna delay your crowning achievement until crowds come back. Not that we know when that's gonna actually happen, but we're gonna delay it and 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 delay it until we actually can get fans in the seats. Because once again, COVID in America is a horrible thing. Cases keep going up and up and up. We don't know when the end's in sight. They're talking about we're going to be remastered till 2022. And if that's the case, we're probably not going to get fans back until 2022. So we're supposed to wait until WrestleMania next year to do the next crowning moment for another wrestler? I think that's dumb. I think that's completely dumb. Now, crowds will be in attendance for WrestleMania this year. So I understand. Drew McIntyre comes to WrestleMania, gets his moment. But he had his moment last year. Don't think it was necessary for Drew to go to WrestleMania as the challenger. I think Drew could have still walked in WrestleMania as the champion. You know what I would have done? I would have done Drew McIntyre going into WrestleMania as a champion and then having Brock come back to challenge Drew McIntyre. That way you could do the rematch, but then you really stack the odds against Drew because it's like, oh, well, Brock's been gone for a few months. I think Brock's been gone since WrestleMania. So Brock's been gone for about a year. WWE loves their Brock Lesnar. Are they going to put the title back on Drew McIntyre? Really, really hammer it in that there is a possibility that Drew will not have his moment, and then Drew actually beats Brock again. And that cements him as a top star if you're not already considering the fact that Drew is a top star now, which I completely believe that he is. That's how I would do it. If you want to go with Bobby Lashley, you could still do Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Now, of course, that would mean that Bobby Lashley will go into WrestleMania as a challenger and would still lose. Yeah, it would suck. But Drew could still have his moment as a champion. I don't think Drew needed to walk in as a challenger to have his, awesome-tacular crowd reaction. That's how I see it. It's not my hill to die on, though. If they want to do Drew McIntyre winning the championship WrestleMania again, by all means, do it. Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre WrestleMania makes the most sense to me. I get the sense Bobby Lashley should be winning next week. However, to end out Raw, Bobby Lashley posed with the WWE Championship. And by WWE logic, if you guys actually watch this company for any length of time, you know that when somebody poses with the championship before a championship match, they likely lose the championship match. So, does this mean that The Miz may actually retain next week? It could. Which I still am kind of confused by because we're a month out from Fastlane. Shouldn't they just wait until Fastlane to do this match? Get a few more weeks out of The Miz as WWE champion before having him drop it? Because if they do this with Bobby Lashley beating The Miz next week, then Miz will only been champion for what? 7 days? 7-8 days as the champion? That's the personification of a transitional champion, and once again, that wastes Money in the Bank, in my opinion. It's a waste of money, but like I said, the concept is dead. So, what are you gonna do? Either way, it is prime for Bobby Lashley to be WWE champion. It should have happened 10 years ago when he was at the top of his game. Or really 13 years ago when he was at the top of his game in 2017. But if now is the time, then now is the time. So, here we are. I think that Bobby Lashley will beat The Miz next week. And I think that we are getting Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre WrestleMania. Unless The Miz retains and we get The Miz versus Bad Bunny WrestleMania. I think that's where we're heading. But now that we're outside of The Miz and WWE talk, let's now talk about everybody's favorite portion of the Chill Spill podcast, the AEW Eliminator Tournament. This week on Monday, we had both the Japanese and the American side. We had 4 matches on the show. I will say this before we start off. I thought this show was better than last week's show. I wouldn't say it was light years better. I'm not trying to make it seem like, once again, I didn't hate last week's show, contrary to popular belief. I didn't hate last week's show. I thought it was good outside of the booking. But I liked this show a lot. I think we had a really goddamn good match in here that I thought was easily contender for best of the tournament, but I'm still debating on that and Serenity versus Riho. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the first match on the show. We had Tay Conti versus Nyla Rose. This was a fairly good match to start off the show. Tay Conti did not back down from Nyla Rose, as contrary to many David and Goliath battles where, David is uber confident, where David isn't uber confident. Tay Conti was all up in Nyla Rose's face at the very get-go of this match. I mean, she was shoving her, all this kind of stuff, which I didn't expect from her. But hey, I like the dynamic. She's all up in her face. She's trying to fight her on, headstrong. I appreciate it. Nyla Rose did end up powering over Tay Conti for a good portion of this match. There was one spot in here that scared the hell out of me, but it was so cool. So Tay Conti goes to kick Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose catches her leg and proceeds to hit the nastiest looking dragon screw I have ever seen. Like, I've seen Tanahashi do at least 100 different dragon screws. I've seen multiple wrestlers in my lifetime do dragon screws. Hell, I've seen Orange Cassidy do a dragon screw to Chris Jericho, who sold it like shit. But this dragon screw looked like she damn near snapped Tay Conti's leg. Now, that's all mostly doing credit to Tay Conti selling it. Because the way it went was that Nyla Rose, you guys know how it looks, you know, she takes your leg, she kind of falls to her back, and she thrusts your leg in one direction. Well, when she did it, Tay Conti almost reacted late. Now, I think she probably did this on purpose, but she reacted I would say a half a second late, and because of that, Nyla Rose basically already hit the mat mid-dragon screw, and Tay Conti had to basically turn after the fact, and it just made this effect look like she basically snapped her leg. With the turn that Tay Conti did, and the way she fell, and the selling, it was a nasty looking dragon screw. Credit to both women in this spot. I thought it was really good. I felt like they probably should have worked over their leg a bit more after this, but it kind of didn't play into much. Like, yeah, she sold it for about a minute or so, but then after the fact, she was walking on it just fine, and even running at points, which I think didn't make too much sense. But I thought the spot was pretty sick. I was actually legitimately worried that Tay may have injured herself, but like I said, she was walking and running, so she was fine, at least from my perspective. Post that spot, I thought Nyla and Tay had a good match once again. There was a missed opportunity in here where Nyla Rose had Tay Conti on her shoulders, and Tay kind of transformed that into a sleeper hold. And Nyla Rose, she's trying to reach for the rope. She goes for the turnbuckle instead, and takes the turnbuckle off of the ring post, and that causes her to fall backwards into a pin. She kicks out, and she's still holding on to the turnbuckle for a second. Now, in my head, I'm thinking that Tay's about to go for a high knee, because she's done it before, like a high knee to the face, and Nyla Rose is going to use the turnbuckle and block the hit, which would have been so cool, but she threw the turnbuckle pad away, which I thought was, they wasted a spot. It was a waste. They could have used it, but nonetheless, I'm not gonna be that nitpicky. I just thought that was something they could have used in there. But in the end, Nyla Rose did end up throwing Tay Conti outside the ring, military pressure outside of the ring, got her back inside the ring, hit a twisting beast bomb onto Tay Conti and got the pin. So Nyla Rose advances into the semifinal round of the American side. Like I said, fairly good match. Nothing you go away to see, but if you find it on Twitter, look at that dragon screw spot. It was nasty. We then get into the next match, Yuka Sakazaki versus Emi Sakura. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's fair to say it's time for Kenny Omega to pack it up for best entrance in AEW. Because Emi's entrance here with May, and I'm not going to lie, I do not remember what the other woman's name was, but May and one of Emi's other student, they dressed up as basically Emi Sakura's original AEW gear and like the red jacket that Freddie Mercury used to wear. They dress up with that, and they have these microphone stands in their hands, and they basically kneel down the way that Miho Abe would kneel down to Taichi before he comes out. They kneel down to Emi, who comes out with her gear from last week, the red crown, and this red king's robe, and with the straight face and the vibe, bro, this entrance was just like for a no crowd entrance, a small arena entrance, she slayed. It was straight up queen shit. Emi Sakura for AEW Women's Champion. Let's go. After this entrance, I was all but rooting for Emi to win this match. I was like, you know what? I was rooting for Yuka, but after this entrance, let's go Emi. Yuka comes out. She does her I love it. I love the theme song as well. And the match kicks off. So they're going at each other. 3 minutes in, Yuka gets knocked outside of the ring by Emmy. And as Emmy's distracting the referee, you see her students start stomping away at Yuka. And I'm like, Emmy's a heel now? Because I don't think Emmy was a heel last week. But she's a heel now. And I'm like, you know what? Given the entrance and her straight face during it and just the demeanor she had throughout the very beginning of the match, I should have expected she would be a heel. But I'm just sitting here like, you know what? I'm rocking with this. And then portions of this match, Emmy's beating down Yuka and she's like humming tunes to Queen, and then her students chime in. Like, there's one really cool submission spot, which, once again, really dope. So she locks in the Romero special on Yuka, but she starts rolling while she has the Romero special locked in on Yuka Sakazaki, which is just the coolest thing ever. And while she's doing the rolling Romero special, she is singing a tune to a Queen song. I think she's, I don't know if it's Dream Will Walk You or something, but she's singing a tune to a Queen song, and then her students are singing along with her. And I'm just sitting here like, yes, this gimmick is what I want to see every single week on AEW Dynamite. So, Emmy, you need to win this damn match, and win the next match, and then go to Revolution and beat Hikaru Shida, because this is AEW Women's Championship material right here. I'm not joking, by the way. Well, I am joking, kind of, sort of, but not really. So anyway, then I think she later did the boom boom clap. We will. She did that later in the match, which I marked out for because I'm a big fan of Queen. But I thought that Emmy was really great in this match as the heel role, dominant heel. Yuka Sakazaki was really good. Well, I would even say great as well in her babyface comeback role. Especially her selling was on par. Everything about this match is just really damn good. The seamless transitions, the move-to-move combats, I enjoyed it all. The finish was a little bit sudden though. Emmy tried for a lifting butterfly facebuster. Yuka gets out of it. Emmy falls back. Yuka hits a sliding clothesline onto Emmy. Tries for the immediate pin, but Emmy kicks out. She uses that momentum to roll her into a crucifix pin, and that gets the win over Sakura. Yuka Sakazaki winning this match and advancing it to the final round of the Japanese side. Though I was not crazy about the finish, I thought it was a damn good match, and I'm still tied. I don't know if I like this match more or Rio vs. Serenity more, but this is definitely up there for best match of the tournament. After the match, Yuka doesn't even get a chance to celebrate before she's beat down by Emmy and her students. Shida then comes out for the save, sending Emmy, May, and the other one walking back. Sounds so rude to say the other one. I gotta look up the girl's name because I feel kind of rude not saying her name. Emmy, May, and Uni, they scurry to the back. And I'm like, you know what? Even though she lost, I'm down for a fucking Emmy Sakura and Hikaru Shida championship match next week. Let's go, let's get it. They announced a match later in the night that's happening next week, but I'll hold off on that until I finish off the rest of this review. So then we get into the match after this. Ryo Mizunami versus Aja Kong. Was not very excited for this match last week, but I did enjoy the match that we got here. Ryo got some fair offense on Aja Kong in the very beginning, even knocking her down with a shoulder block, which is pretty cool. I thought throughout, I think Ryo's confidence and just the way she carried herself with all of her her offense, I felt like that really got the match going a lot more. I don't want to say this, you know what, I think I probably would say this is better than the Rin Katakura match last week. No slight to Rin, but I think Riho definitely pushed things along a lot more. And it may have also been that I think this match might have went a bit longer than the Rin Katakura match, and you know, Riho didn't have to, you know, get thrown around the way that Rin did last week. Maybe that's why I enjoyed this one a little bit more. But I thought it was pretty solid, everything they did in here. I think one of the best spots of the night easily was when Aja Kong took Ryo outside the ring with her trash bin, because you know Aja Kong carries a trash bin to the ring. And she goes up to the commentary table where Hikaru Shida is sitting. Aja Kong takes a trash bin, throws it at Shida, who catches it, and Shida holds it. So then Aja Kong takes Ryo and sends her face first into the trash bin that Hikaru Shida is holding. And just the sound of the trash bin makes, I ain't gonna lie, I started giggling. I started chuckling a little bit. They got me. So Aja Kong, slow as a tortoise getting to the ring. I don't know how she was this slow, or Riho was just this fast. It was one of the two, maybe a combination of the two. So Rio, she basically gets an adrenaline rush, rushes to the ring as Aja Kong's trying to get in. She goes to the top rope, hits the Undertaker leg drop onto the apron, onto Aja Kong, who's draped across it, trying to get into the ring, by the way. She causes her to fall outside the ring. Rio slides into the ring by the count of 10. Rio Mizunami winning by a count-out victory. She moves on to the final round where she will face Yuka Sakazaki. So Rio Mizunami and Yuka Sakazaki moving on. Like I said, I thought this was you know what? I'll say it was a good match. I say it's a good match. I was going to say decent, but that finish, that finish popped me. So I gotta say it was good. Then we get into the main event of the evening: Britt Baker versus Maddie Rinkowski. So Maddie Rinkowski had a bit of controversy on Twitter, much like I did. A bit of controversy on Twitter, I think a month or two ago, where I think Bianca Belair tweeted out a picture. You guys know Bianca Belair has a trademark Rapunzel-like, braid in her hair. And Maddie Rinkowski was on AEW Dark that same week, and she tweeted out a picture of her with her ponytail. I don't know if it was a quote tweet to Bianca's tweet or if it was a comment under her tweet. But she said something along the lines of, yeah, well, I have real hair. Sounded like I have real hair and Bianca doesn't. Which, oof. Ooh, I don't know if I would have said that one, but she went there. And the Twitter Mafia came after her. She ain't got cancer or anything. She was literally on AEW Dark, I think, that same week. Now she's here on the AEW Eliminator Tournament, so obviously it wasn't that bad of a comment that she made. And I don't think it was anything I could see exactly how what she said would have rubbed people the wrong way. I thought it was disrespectful, but it was definitely nothing that would have been like, take her off of television for the rest of her career. Like, it wasn't a career killer or anything. So she was back on Dynamite. Well, she's back on AEW television this week, YouTube television this week. Britt Baker and Rebel attacked her before the bell rung. An attack went on for like a solid minute outside of the ring. So Maddie tried to fight back. She even got Britt into the ring, only for the bell to ring, and Britt stomped her in the leg and continued to beat down on her. First thing I noticed as the match started off is that after that Bianca Belair comment, I noticed that her hair was not in a braid this week. So smart move, because that would have been the first thing people would have brought up. So Mike Wazowski proceeded to get beat down for the remainder of this match until inevitably Britt Baker got her down, cinched in her lockjaw, and got the submission victory. Listen, I'm not even really just skipping over what happened here. Nothing of substance really happened in this match outside of the beatdown. Britt Baker literally controlled most of this match and then won the whole thing. There was not really anything much mentioning about Rob Gronkowski. I didn't really think she did enough to impress me, if that makes sense. But Britt Baker won this match. I thought this really had no place being in the main event slot, especially considering the beatdown happened before the match, and then it wasn't competitive enough for it to warrant being the last match on the show. I would have personally put Emmy and Yuka in this spot, but hey, I guess they got to build up the champion, the soon-to-be champion Britt Baker. So that's just how it is. After the match, they end up beating down Maddie some more, even rubbing what I'm going to assume is eyeliner. I don't know. I don't wear makeup. Rubbing eyeliner all over her face. We have confirmed coming up this and next week for the tournament, Britt Baker versus Nyla Rose will be happening this Wednesday on Dynamite. I'm pretty sure Britt Baker's winning that match, as she will the entire tournament. And then this Sunday on BleachReport.com, not on Dynamite or YouTube, but BleachReport.com, so make sure you guys remember that, we'll be getting Thunder Rosa versus Riho, semi-final round of the American side. That's going to kick a lot of ass. I can't wait for that. They could go either way, but I'm going to say Thunder Rosa makes it to the final round to challenge Britt Baker, especially considering how the tournament ended this week. It's definitely going to be Thunder Rosa making it on. We also have Hikaru Shida, Mei Suruga, and Rin Kadokura versus Emi Sakura, Veni, and Maki Ito. My favorite is back. I can't wait. I'm hella confused though, because Mei Suruga was on Emi's side this week, literally was her manager, kind of, sorta, was cheering along with her, and even attacked Yuka Sakazaki after the match with Emi. So why is she on the opposite side? It doesn't make much sense to me. I saw on Twitter people were saying, oh, maybe Hikaru Shida is trying to persuade her against her teacher who's trying to get her into the dark side. And yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. But it would have made a lot more sense if they just put Mei on Emi's side and then start doing that. Now, of course, I don't know how much time they would have had, because obviously I don't know exactly when's the next time we're going to see any of these women on Dynamite. So maybe they had to skip that integral part of getting to this portion of their feud, kind of, sort of. I don't know. But happy to see Rin back. Happy to see Veni back. Happy to see Maki Ito back. As I was told multiple times, Maki Ito's gimmick is that she loses a lot. So I'm not going to have high hopes that her team will win, especially considering that Emi's the heel now. So she's probably not winning this week. Definitely going to be Shida going into the AEW Eliminator tournament. But I'm happy to see all these women back. And then the main event will likely be Yuka Sakazaki versus Ryo Mizunami in the finals of the Japanese side, which I will go with Yuka to win and make it on to face either Britt Baker or Thunder Rosa. March 3rd would be next week. And I'm assuming that would be where they're going to have the finals of the tournament. But Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, how are they going to have their match on March the 3rd and the finals on March the 3rd? Like, I understand we're getting Shida versus the winner of this tournament on Sunday, but how are we getting the finals of the American side in enough time to have the finals of the tournament? They haven't explained that part. I don't know how they're going to get to that point, but we'll see when we get there. Like I said, I thought the show was better than last week. Good show. Can't wait for Sunday and Wednesday. But let's talk a little bit more about AEW. So, Dynamite last week, same show that brought us the greatness that was Serena Deeb versus Riho, which was an easy winner for Match of the Month, was also the same show that brought us Sting taking his very first bump since 2015, taking just a hellacious looking powerbomb from Brian Cage, which, you know what? After all these weeks of Sting not doing anything, I should not be complaining about Sting taking a bump. So you know what? Sting took a bump. It looked nasty. And I gasped because I was a little bit afraid. The man's like 62 years old, 61, 63 years old. Anybody that will take a bump is a little bit worrisome to anybody. But if he's up walking and able and ready to go, then that gives me a little bit more confidence in his performance going into, Revolution in 2 weeks. So that much is said. Also on that show, we had the baby gender reveal for Cody and Brandy Rhodes. I'm not even joking. Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes had their entrance, came out to the ramp, got pyro, and then on the Titantron it said, "It's a girl." This was a solid 30 seconds of AEW Dynamite wasted on a gender reveal. Congratulations to them, but just adds more to the fact that Cody and Brandy Rhodes are heels. Even though they portray themselves as baby faces, they are heels in my eyes. And if they are supposed to be baby faces, they should not be doing shit like this. They really shouldn't be. This was a complete unnecessary thing. Unnecessary. But to end out this show, you had Moxley, Rey Fenix, and Lance Archer versus Eddie Kingston, the Butcher, and the Blade. And Moxley ended up submitting Eddie Kingston to win the match. Afterwards, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers came out to attack Jon Moxley. Kenny Omega, in the midst of this beatdown, pulled out his contract that revealed that he's going to be facing Jon Moxley at AEW Revolution for the AEW Championship, which many of us already knew was going to happen. What we didn't know what was going to happen was the reveal of the stipulation. Kenny Omega then says that their match at Revolution for the championship will be an explosive barbed wire death match. I'm going to say that again for all of you who aren't finished laughing or aren't finished, in amazement. An explosive barbed wire death match. I was very, very puzzled. I was very, very shocked that they are going this far with this caliber of a match on AEW. But at the same time, I shouldn't be, because they did a very, very crazy lights out match in 2019 between these two men. But I was very much undecided on how I felt about this. I didn't know, okay, so we're getting Omega and Moxley, and then first of all, the word explosive. We're not going to see the ring exploding because we don't want to see these men legitimately die. So it's going to be some type of CG, well, probably not CGI. It's probably going to be some pyro going off. I don't know how they're going to pull off the exploding part, but explosive. Barbed wire. Considering that their feud started off Dynamite last year, 2 years ago, really. And it was really more so kicked off with Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega having barbed wire in their feud. That makes sense. The deathmatch portion is where I'm like, interesting. They had a lights out match in 2019 that I even said was more or less a death match, a tame death match. Jon Moxley's been in death matches before. Technically, I don't know if Kenny Omega has ever been in one or not. How would they pull off an explosive barbed wire death match? Now, this is not on TNT television, and if it were, this would have been stripped of any semblance of a death match. It wouldn't even be explosive. Probably wouldn't have barbed wire involved either, so it had to be on pay-per-view. So that makes sense. How are they going to pull this off, is my question. They did the lights out match. And that lights out match, I have not seen a lights out match probably since it happened. But that lights out match, I was very tight on as well. Because that match had a lot. And I mean a lot. You had glass. You had barbed wire. You had barbed wire beds. Exposed ring mats. Chairs. Everything was in that match. And AEW, I will give them a lot. And I mean a lot of credit. Because AEW knows how to do Extreme Rules, hardcore, bunkhouse, the falls count anywhere, lights out, whatever the case may be. If it is out of the realm of a normal match, AEW knows how to do it extremely well. So I'm not in doubt that they can pull a match like, a death match off. I'm not at all saying they can't pull it off, because I know they can. What I'm curious about is how they're going to pull off the explosive barbed wire parts. I have not seen, that is incorrect. I have seen an explosive barbed wire death match before, but I haven't seen it in probably a decade. I don't know how they're going to pull it off. But I will say this. The match has already been announced. There's no turning back. Go all the way with it. If it's going to be an explosive barbed wire death match, I want to see blood. I want to see hokey, corny explosions. I want to see barbed wire as far as the eye can see. If you're going to make this a hellacious, over-the-top match, you might as well go the mile. So I want to see exactly just how kooky crazy this match is going to get. My expectations are low, but it is low so that way I'm not disappointed if the match does not, go super, super, super over the top. I've never been a big fan of death matches. Some of you know this. Some of you know this now. Not a big fan of death matches. However, every once in a bluest of blue moons, I will sit through a death match and I will, maybe even seek one out. This may be the one death match a year that I'm actually going to seek out. So, I am maybe not looking forward to it, but I'm curious about how it's going to play out. Jon Moxley did win the lights out match. So one would think that since Kenny Omega also won their last match, Jon Moxley's due back to win the AEW World Championship. But I'm going to say my prediction for next week when we do a preview for Revolution. So I'll say my prediction, but I'll leave you guys on that note. Also, this week with some NXT news, I was going to talk about the whole Kyle O'Reilly incident, but I'm going to skip over that because I don't really think it's too much to talk about. You know what? We're already on the top. Let's talk about it. So, NXT that same night ended in controversy. Though it was not on camera, off camera, Kyle O'Reilly was spazzing out. He was seemingly, to a fan, having a seizure. They tweeted a picture of Kyle O'Reilly getting stretchered out and said as much on Twitter. And the internet was freaking the hell out. They thought that Kyle O'Reilly legitimately had a seizure. Kyle O'Reilly is type 1 diabetic. So the thought of him having a seizure is not completely out of the realm of possibility, which is what scared a lot of people. Hell, it scared me. I put my own tweet out saying, thoughts and prayers of Kyle O'Reilly. I was like many people out there. Then you had wrestlers on NXT who were also tweeting out, get well, get soon, Kyle O'Reilly, prayers up, all this type of stuff. The wrestlers were playing into it. So I was led to believe this was real. But then, I think within an hour, Ryan Satin on Twitter confirmed that this was none other than just storyline purposes. And in no way was it made to look like Kyle O'Reilly had a seizure. Which was just angering to a lot of people. Like, how dare WWE do something like this? Had fans worried and all that kind of stuff. If it was a fan's misinterpretation of the segments of what they were doing, I'm not there. I don't know how quote-unquote real Kyle O'Reilly made it look. So I can't really say, WWE shouldn't be doing shit like this. It's professional wrestling. Professional wrestling does stretcher spots. They do angles like this before. It wasn't on TV, so it was not meant for us to see. Now, why they decided to do a stretcher spot off TV, I'll never know. But they did it off TV, and a fan thought it was real. A fan got quote-unquote... I saw people online saying, this fan got worked. And that. A fan legitimately thought Kyle O'Reilly was hurt. You guys want to say he got worked? Like, chill the fuck out. Here's what I will say. If Kyle O'Reilly legitimately was not hurt, like was not injured, did not have a seizure, I don't feel like the NXT talent should have been out doing those prayers up, get well soon Kyle O'Reilly, especially when fans thought it was real. If the fans think it's real, that Kyle O'Reilly legitimately, actually, literally had a seizure, why would the talent go out of their way to play into that? Because all that's going to do is make fans think he actually did have a seizure. Because that's what I thought. But then Ryan Satin's like, oh no, it was not a seizure. And I don't think WWE commented on it. But I thought that was kind of scummy. Like, I'm not blaming WWE as a whole for doing the segment. If they're going to do a segment, do a segment. But I thought it was kind of scummy of the NXT talent to play with the fans' emotions like that, especially when they believed that he was actually hurt. That I did not like. I did not like that at all. But the whole blaming WWE or Kyle O'Reilly, if Kyle O'Reilly was selling, then he was selling very damn well. I just think they should be more careful about how they do things like that going forward. Because that could have been, obviously it wasn't like real, but I feel like you shouldn't be scaring fans like that legitimately. We all know that this is like we're not in this day and age where fans still think this is real. Fans understand this is scripted. So to play up somebody possibly being actually hurt, I'm not a fan of that. I hope they don't do that again. NXT also is taping their NXT to NXT show. NXT Evolve, allegedly is the name. They taped a pilot for the show. It will be a program used to showcase Performance Center trainees yet to appear on big time television. So basically, this is NXT before it went to 2 hours. Fine by me. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch this show. I'm going to say it right now. They recorded the pilot episode. It's probably greenlit, but we don't know when it's going to air. We don't know if it's ever going to air. But if this show is going to be on the WWE network, I don't know if I'm going to go out of my way to watch this show, but I'll check out the first episode because I miss my 1 hour wrestling show NXT. And they probably have a lot of independent wrestling talent on there that I've never seen before. They have so many signed talent on the Performance Center that we don't even know about. So you know what? That much, it piques my interest. The same way that the Superstar Spectacle piqued my interest. So I'll check out the first episode. And if they can pull me in somehow, cool, they may have a fan. But an NXT to NXT, yeah, that concept is kind of, yeah. But you know what? Let me not say because an NXT to NXT may also be a good thing, because then it may stop this stigma that NXT is developmental, which Triple H tries to denounce it as developmental for years now. So it can stop that stigma by having a show where, oh, if you do well, you go to NXT. Now, how you truly nip that in the bud is if you stop the stigma that NXT talent go up to the main roster, because they still say call-ups. They still imply that Raw and SmackDown are the big leagues. I saw that Rhea Ripley is going to be going to Raw soon. We need to stop that. If NXT is truly the third brand, then we need to stop having these talent go to Raw and SmackDown as if it is a bigger opportunity for them. I'm not saying that guys from NXT should never, ever, ever go to Raw and SmackDown. I'm just saying that you shouldn't position it as if it is, the big times, because that makes NXT feel inferior. Also, if you want NXT ratings to not keep plummeting, maybe not put all your best talent from NXT on Raw and SmackDown where we will never see them again. Maybe that might help out too. Just an idea. Also, maybe consider NXT being an actual third brand and be considered part of the draft next time. Just an idea. But hey, I'm just another Mark doing a wrestling podcast, so what do I know? Outside of that, let's also talk about some New Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling in its entirety a bit later on. But New Japan is playing a bit of a role in Impact Wrestling. Last week, Juice Robinson and David Finlay, Finn Juice, former IWGP Tag Team Champions, former winners of the World Tag League 2019, made their debut on Impact Wrestling last week. Went from Japan to Nashville for some Impact Wrestling tapings. They won their match against Reno Scum, and the ratings came in. Impact Wrestling doing their biggest ratings boost since Kenny Omega appeared on Impact Wrestling on December the 8th. Kenny Omega did a 221,000 ratings booster for the show on December the 8th. And last week, Impact Wrestling drew 197,000 viewers. Hey, listen, good for Impact. Good for Impact. They're getting up there with Impact having their partnership with AEW and New Japan. Happy for them. It is kind of questionable, though, that Impact Wrestling has this partnership with AEW and New Japan, and the ratings go up when they're on, but then, like a week or so later, the ratings plummet back down. Now, we don't know what Impact Wrestling ratings like this week because I didn't watch Impact. I don't know ratings like this week. But when Kenny Omega was on Impact Wrestling the first week, ratings were up 221,000. But in the weeks that followed, they fell back down. Almost as if it didn't even matter that Kenny Omega was on Impact afterwards. But here's the thing about that. Juice Robinson and David Finlay, they actually wrestled on Impact Wrestling. They actually legitimately wrestled, unlike Kenny Omega. And that boosted them up to 197,000. Now, if Juice Robinson and David Finlay start wrestling maybe, a couple weeks, a couple more weeks on Impact Wrestling, and the ratings stay, 197, 190, 180, then yeah, that's great. However, if they start wrestling and the ratings start plummeting again, oof, That's not good. That's not good. But let's also talk about Sammy Guevara from AEW, who was also supposed to be on Impact Wrestling this week, or last week. One of those two. There was a report out again against Sammy Guevara having heat with AEW management. This time being sent home during Impact Wrestling tapings. As you guys know, a few weeks ago, Sammy Guevara left the Inner Circle and said that he was going to take some time away to figure things out, opening the doors for many possibilities. Well, it turns out one of them was going to be Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling had some plans lined up for Sammy Guevara. Sammy decided to bring his own to the table, proposing that he would win 3 matches at Impact Wrestling as soon as that would happen, going into the Impact Wrestling, X Division Championship division, and winning the X Division Championship, currently being held by TJP, or Manic. He would then bring it to AEW, but would never defend it or have intentions to return back to Impact Wrestling with it. Instead, they would vacate the championship and put it on the line in a tournament to crown a new champion. If those are the plans that Sammy Guevara proposed to Impact Wrestling, like many reports were saying, then I don't blame Impact for telling Sammy to go the hell home. We're not dealing with that shit. That is a dumb plan. Like, Sammy Guevara, I understand AEW is the bigger leagues. I understand that, and Impact is the little leagues in comparison. But for Sammy Guevara to come to Impact Wrestling, win the X Division Championship, Impact's property, win the championship, take it to AEW, never come back to Impact Wrestling with the championship, or defend it, for that matter, in Impact or on AEW, and vacate the championship is a slap to the face of Impact Wrestling. So, if that were really his plans, shame on Sammy Guevara for even presenting that to Impact Wrestling. Shame on him. Then I heard reports that that was not entirely the plans, and then I heard that, everything's okay. Here's what I will say about this. I highly doubt that Impact and AEW are now on sour terms because of this one incident. Especially considering Impact Wrestling, I don't want to say they need AEW, but they need AEW. Impact benefits from AEW being on their television show. So, I don't think they're in a hurry to cancel this relationship all because of Sammy Guevara. But I will add this on. Sammy Guevara just better be very careful, because this is the second time I've heard of him having some controversy. The first time were for comments he made years ago, and he got suspended from AEW. You could even say he should have been suspended, but that's up for debate. Now he's having controversy because he's refusing to work with Impact Wrestling on their terms. Allegedly, some of these plans were proposed by Chris Jericho and Don Callis, and Sammy didn't go with them, so now it makes Chris Jericho and Don Callis look bad. Sammy Guevara is in the middle of what could be a babyface turn for him when he comes back to AEW. So for him to go out here and possibly be making things look bad for him is not a good look. So Sammy just better tread lightly, because I don't want to say this is how careers end, but from what I've seen, from what I've heard, this is how stuff can quickly shift out of your gear, out of your favor, with management, with your booking. So I think Sammy Guevara has potential to be AEW champion one day, but if he keeps on getting into little scuffles like this, I don't know about that. But big shout out to Mason Goldberg and the homie NJPW Fan 10, our Patreon backers, patreon.com/TylerMask. Also, your boy is also now on TikTok, tiktok.com/suplex, and that is suplex with 2 O's, PLEX. Go follow me on TikTok. I put up at least 2 videos a day. I'm starting this week with some 1-minute reviews for wrestling shows, wrestling matches, all that shit, with some wrestling skits as well, so go follow me on TikTok. I asked some questions on Patreon. You guys responded. I also asked them on YouTube as well. And Mason Rollison came with a question that I thought was pretty worthy of mentioning here. He asked, give us your top 5 most improved male wrestlers over the past year. Good question. I would say and I think some of these are not really more so most improved, but just guys I've noticed have shined a lot more than they have in previous years. The first I'm going to name is Jey Uso. Jey Uso for the longest time was part of the Usos, you know, his tag team partner with Jimmy Uso. And they are a great tag team, and I think they will go down in history in maybe 10 years as one of the greatest tag teams of all time. What are they? 5-time tag team champions, had multiple great matches. They will go down as one of the greatest tag teams of all time in like 10 years' time when it's all said and done. But whenever you hear about the Usos, you think about Jimmy Uso. Because, you know, Jimmy Uso, he's married to Naomi. He's always one of the featured guys on Total Divas. At least back when I used to watch Total Divas like years and years and years ago. You don't really hear too much about Jey Uso. But Jimmy Uso got hurt last year. And this led Jey Uso to go out on his own. He ended up feuding, being the first person to feud with Roman Reigns after he won the Universal Championship. Nobody ever predicted this, but Jey Uso ended up feuding with Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship for about a solid 3 months. Not only was Jey Uso found out to be a really damn good wrestler, but in my opinion, it was one of the greatest feuds of 2020. One of the greatest feuds of 2020 involved Jey Uso. And then after the feud, he joins Roman Reigns and continues to have good matches on SmackDown with guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, you name it. Jey Uso is definitely, in my opinion, one of the most improved male wrestlers over the past year. And I think if you were to say that Jey Uso should be in line to go for the running of the IC Championship, I would not at all put it past you. I would not at all be mad at you. I would even go as far as say as I'd be behind Jey Uso as IC champion. But Jimmy Uso may be coming back soon, and when Jimmy Uso comes back, he's going right back into that tag division. So he had a nice run of singles. Nice run in singles, Jay. But next up is the tag team, so I'm cheating a bit here. But I had the Butcher and the Blade. Now, I don't ever think or remember the Butcher and the Blade ever being bad. But I want to say in 2020, they definitely shined a lot. Especially in the tag team match they had with Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, the bunkhouse match. That was really good. They had a really good Falls Count Anywhere match with the Young Bucks. That was really good. They had some other tag team matches throughout Dynamite in that period of time. They got paired up with Eddie Kingston and the Lucha Bros. And they've been featured on Dynamite really for a lot of 2021 with Eddie Kingston. So Butcher and Blade, in my opinion, are definitely up there for most improved tag team. Male tag team, at least. Next up, I'm going to say Yoshihashi. Now, I might be cheating a bit here because I think that Yoshihashi's been good ever since 2019. But 2020 was Yoshihashi's year. This man shined bright. This man won the Never Openweight 6-man tag team championships. He was really, I would say, the cornerstone of the 6-man tag team division with Hiroki Goto and Tomohiro Ishii. You go back to his match with Doki and Yoshinobu Kanemaru and El Desperado, Titan Zack Sabre Jr., Minoru Suzuki. You go back to his matches with Okada and Yano, and you go back to just about any 6-man tag team match he was involved in. Yoshihashi was like the bread and butter of that match. And he may even got the pin in some of them. I'm going to say this right now. If Yoshihashi were to go for the Never Openweight, the singles Never Openweight Championship, or even the IC, or even the US Championship, I would not at all be mad at it. Because Yoshihashi is very much in the running for being a single star if they wanted to get behind him in that manner. Next on my list is Sammy Guevara. I think that Sammy Guevara last year was definitely one of the better parts of AEW Dynamite, both in ring and as a character in the Inner Circle. And when we started this feud, this inner turmoil with the Inner Circle, I thought that he was one of the better parts of the Inner Circle matches as a babyface. And that's very much very much of an uplift for me, because whenever I seen Sammy Guevara outside of AEW, before AEW, I always thought he was good, but I was never overly impressed by him. But seeing him week to week and just how much potential he has, he's definitely one of the most improved of the year for me. And then finally is Finn Balor. Now, Finn Balor has never been bad. Finn Balor's always been really, really good. But this year, like in the last few months in particular, Finn Balor has really been working this slower, methodical, King's Road-esque style with guys like Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly and Timothy Thatcher, and I've thoroughly enjoyed all of it. I think that Finn Balor has been killing the game on NXT from what I've seen. I don't watch NXT week to week, but from what I see, Finn Balor is killing it each and every single time. So, when you ask me top 5 most improved, I go Jey Uso, Butcher and the Blade, Yoshihashi, Sammy Guevara, and Finn Balor. But now let's get into some previews here. Before that, let me take a swig of some water because my throat is parched. We're going a bit OT on this episode, a bit over an hour. Whew. Refreshing. So, NJPW. They're a busy week this week. We talked about Castle Attack Night 1 last week, so I won't be previewing it again. Go check out the last podcast to hear my Night 1 preview. But before Castle Attack Night 1, on happening this Saturday, they have a Friday show in America, NJPW Strong, which features 2 matches that I'm really excited for. One of which being Ren Narita, my son, versus Chris Dickinson. Chris Dickinson has been pretty well pushed on NJPW Strong from what I've heard. He's been undefeated, running amok on the talent. And I've seen quite a bit of his indie matches. I've seen him at least twice on the indie scene in person. Stiff guy, exactly what I think New Japan would love to have on their Japanese product. I mean, the guy from I spoke to before, he is a humongous mark for All Japan 90s wrestling. And you see it a lot in his attire, you see a lot in his style now. And when he goes up against these smaller guys, it's always a wreck house. He's going up against Ren Narita, who love Ren Narita to death. So I'm really excited for this match. Chris Dickinson obviously going to win this match. Ren Narita has gotten a pin on NJPW Strong before, so it's not out of the realm possibility for him to win, but Chris Dickinson is a monster on the show. I think he's definitely in the running for a U.S. Championship very soon. I'm going to say that he wins this match. Speaking of the U.S. Championship, I haven't talked about it in a few weeks here. Most of you know my thoughts on it. We're going to comment on it for a final time before we get to the actual show. Jon Moxley, finally, after a whole calendar year, finally will defend the IWGP United States Championship against Kenta. Kenta, who has successfully defended his briefcase rights 4 times, finally gets his championship match against Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley has been the champion for 14 months. And of those 14 months, he's defended his title twice. Once at Wrestle Kingdom against Juice Robinson, and the other against Minoru Suzuki a month later at New Beginning in Osaka 2020. He has not defended his title since then because of COVID. Now he has a chance to. There is only one correct answer for who should win this match, and it is Kenta. Jon Moxley may possibly be able to come back to NJPW Strong given the working relationship New Japan and AEW have. But he has not been an active champion for over a year. He does not deserve the right to be the champion anymore. He should have been stripped a long time ago. Kenta should be the champion. Kenta should. I don't know if he's going to actually beat him. I'm not confident that he might beat him, honestly. I'm not going to say that I think that Jon Moxley will win, but I'm not 100% confident that Kenta wins this match. But Kenta should beat Jon Moxley this coming Friday to be our new IWGP United States champion. Now here's why I think that Jon Moxley may actually retain. Because the IWGP United States Championship has the word United States in it. And NJPW Strong has been running on NJPW World for the last few months. If you're going to actually be keeping his brand around and want to actually, get a footing in the U.S. market, it makes sense to have a U.S. champion on NJPW Strong. And with Kenta going back and forth between Japan and America, one would think that if Jon Moxley can't go to Japan right now and they really want to hearken to have like a championship, like an active championship on NJPW Strong, it would make sense for Jon Moxley to retain a championship. But once again, I wouldn't have an issue with that if Jon Moxley were an active champion for the last year. He wasn't. So he shouldn't be. Which is why I think Kenta should win. Now, if Kenta is not going to be in NJPW Strong every week because he's going to be in Japan, I know they do mass tapings, then I would say tape some matches with Kenta in America. Maybe have him do like 1 or 2 defenses. And have him drop to somebody who actually is going to be your U.S. champion who's on American television. That's what I would do. But we'll see what they do this coming Friday. I sincerely hope Jon Moxley is no longer the champion. I'm not going to be like absurdly angry if Jon Moxley's still the champion, but I'm not going to be happy about it. I'll leave it at that. After NJPW Strong, we get into Castle Attack. Once again, Night 1 preview is on last week's episode. Let's talk about Night 2 of Castle Attack, happening this Sunday. On this card, we have about, 6-7 matches? The first of which being Hiroshi Tenzan and Satoshi Kojima versus Will Ospreay and Jeff Cobb. The feud between United Empire and Hiroshi Tenzan and Kojima, Tenkozy, still continues on. And I think it should still continue on with United Empire winning. So Will Ospreay and Jeff Cobb win this match. Next up, we have Toru Yano, Tomoichi, and Kazuchika Okada versus Chase Owens, Evil, and Jay White. Now this comes after the Okada versus Evil match and Jay White versus Ishii match from Night 1. Now this doesn't make too much sense because you would think that after their match they wouldn't really go back to it, but they are. Which leads me to assume they may be doing these matches again in New Japan Cup, which is coming up in March after all. Possibly. I'm not too sure. Now, since they're doing this tag match, it could possibly mean that maybe Evil and Jay White win their matches on Night 1. But I'm going to say that Night 2 goes to Yano, Ishii, and Okada, with Yano rolling up Owens because it's Yano and Owens. Oh, Yano and Owens also have a match on Night 1 as well, so that makes a lot of sense. Even though I think the matches should be reversed, but continue on anyway. We also have Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa defending their IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships against Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. I am not going to lie to you guys. I am completely behind Yoshihashi as an IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champion. Considering he's only ever been the Never 6-Man Tag Team Champions, I am not opposed to this at all. Now, Goto and Yoshihashi did obviously get a pinfall over this team on the last show, which is why they're getting this match. I think that Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa are probably going to end up getting their win back. So I'm going to go with Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, GOD, to retain the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Next up on the show, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi defending his Never Openweight Championship against the Great Okan. I was not super excited about this match when it happened in Wrestle Kingdom. I'm not super excited about it happening now either. Hiroshi Tanahashi just won this championship from Satoshi Kojima. He just won it from Shingo Takagi just about not even like the same month. He won it earlier this month in February. I would like to think that they would want to get some more time out of Tanahashi as the champion, but given that they want to make, the United Empire look strong coming out of Wrestle Kingdom, and I don't blame them because they obviously did not make them look good going into or out of WK, Great Okan likely will win this match. If he loses to Tanahashi twice, I don't feel about that either. It's one of the two evils. Do you have Tanahashi beat Okan twice and make him look kind of weak in comparison? Or do you have Okan beat Tanahashi and make it basically Tanahashi was a transitional champion? Which one is a lesser evil? I think lesser evil is probably Tanahashi being a transitional champion. So I'm going to go with Great Khan to win the Never Openweight Championship here. Next up in this match, we had Hiromu Takahashi defending the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship against El Fantasma. Now, I say had because it also was confirmed earlier this week that Hiromu Takahashi suffered a pectoral injury in his shoulder. Well, his pec, obviously. But I think it's also a shoulder injury. And that's going to sideline him for 6 to 9 months. Which is just so disappointing. So disappointing. Hiromu Takahashi was killing the game when he returned back in late 2019 in time for his match with Will Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom 14. And he's been on fire ever since then. Really, since COVID, Takahashi's been on fire. Him and Shingo both of LIJ. So it sucks that he's been injured. Now, with him being out for so long, he's probably going to drop the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Now, if we're being fair here, Jon Moxley was an inactive champion for an entire year. So if they wanted to have Hiromu be an inactive champion for 6 months, who am I to say that they're wrong to do it? But I think they're probably going to strip Hiromu. So I don't know what they're going to do in place of this match. But if they're going to do El Fantasma winning the Junior Heavyweight Championship, maybe they do Bushi versus El Fantasma. I don't know what they're going to do with this match. But if Hiromu was still in this match, Hiromu would have retained. Now that Hiromu's not the champion anymore, I don't put it past them to have El Fantasma become the new Junior Heavyweight Champion. So that's on my radar right now. Then the main event of night 2 was Kota Ibushi defending just the IWGP Intercontinental Championship against Tetsuya Naito. This is going to be their 10th singles match. Their 10th singles match in their entire career. Kota Ibushi, 6 wins over Naito, with Naito having 3 wins. Now, this is also interesting considering that Tetsuya Naito had a slight injury happening last week during the Road to Castle Attack tour, and that sidelined him. I don't know if he's going to be well enough for this match. I'm assuming he will be because they didn't announce anything about him being pulled. Now, I don't think they announced Hiromu Takahashi being pulled either. They just announced that he's injured. So I don't know exactly how the match will shape up if Naito's not 100%. Knowing Naito and Ibushi, they're going to still try to kill each other. But I'm going to say that Tetsuya Naito will be the one to beat Kota Ibushi and separate the IWGP Heavyweight and IC Championship. Naito is basically all but associated with the right strap ever since Shinsuke Nakamura left. And I believe that association will continue. This will leave Kota Ibushi with only the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and finally separating both titles from each other. Now we can go back to having the IC Championship as the secondary championship in New Japan. Not that they ever really treated the Never Openweight Championship as the secondary championship. But we'll go back to that being the secondary championship. We can go back to having some shows main evented by the IC Championship, which we're starting off with here. And Naito can go back to having some of his main events. Where do we go with Kota Ibushi? Now we could say that the winner of New Japan Cup is going to face just Kota Ibushi for the Heavyweight Championship. Where do we go for New Japan Cup? We'll see. We'll see. I'll preview that probably in the next week or so. But before we tune out here, there's one more show I want to preview, and that is Stardom's All-Star Dream Cinderella show coming up on March the 3rd, which I will be live for. Woo! Yes, I'm live for that show March the 3rd. I'm super excited for this show. It is the most stacked I can't speak. This is the most stacked Stardom card I think I've ever seen. Like, I've been watching Stardom for going on 2 years now, and I don't think I've ever seen a card so loaded than this one right here. And when they announced this card, I said, I hope this is a live show because I would love to do a live reaction for it. They just announced it yesterday, so I'll be pre-ordering this show and probably once this stream is over, once this live recording is over. But let's talk about this card. So, my biggest disappointment about this show probably would be that we're having prologue fights, pre-shows. On this pre-show is Azumi versus Natsupoi for the High Speed Championship. Now, this was probably the match I was most excited for, maybe out of this entire card. Because Azumi is just amazing. Natsupoi shocked the hell out of me when she came into Stardom, and has been doing such a great job since then. So I expect this match to be balls to the wall action. It's going to be a great match. It may even be match of the year, who knows? But it's on the pre-show. So they're not going to get as much limelight as they should. It's still going to kick a lot of ass, though. I'm still excited for it. I'm going to go with Azumi to retain the High Speed Championship. Hopefully they have another match soon that will be on the main show. Also on the prologue fight will be Himeka and Maika. They are currently your Goddesses of Stardom Tag Team Champions. They defeated, I believe, B and who was B champions with? B and Konami. They'll be defending their championships against Natsuko Tora and Saki Kashima of Oedo Tai. It's Donald Mundo, and Donald Mundo never loses. So I'm going to go with Himeka and Maika to retain the Goddesses of Stardom Tag Team Championships. Then we head into the main show, the All-Star Dream Rumble. In this Rumble confirmed so far, we have Bea Priestley, Mina Shirakawa, Unagi Sayaka, Starlight Kid, Saya Iida, Gokujin Death, Lady C. Now, I have not pronounced some of these names before, so if I butcher some of them, I apologize ahead of time. Shitose Nagoya, Kyoko Onoi, which is a legend in the Joshi wrestling, really wrestling in general. She's had some wars with Manami Toyota and Akira Hokuto, so I'm excited to see her in this match. Shimoda Mima, who I believe is also pretty much a legend. Hiryo Matsumoto, who I know is also pretty much a legend in her own right. She was on the Mae Young Classic before. Emi Sakura, so I'm excited to see her as well. Rin Kadokura, Mei Hoshizuki, who faced Azumi, I believe, about a month or two ago on the last Big Stardom show. They had a good match. Yoko Bito, Miho Wakizawa, Hiromi Mimura, Yuna Manasi, Haruka Kato, Kaguma, and Momo Nakanishi, who was a part of the Stardom, return show that they had last year. Of the women involved in this match, who do I see winning? I don't know. They're all capable of winning, more so the Stardom women, but they're all capable of winning this match. If I had to take a big wild guess of who of this lineup may win, I'm going to say probably Bea Priestley. If not Bea Priestley, maybe Mina Shirakawa or Kyoko. Not too sure, but I'm excited. I'm a big fan of Rumbles. Big fan of Rumbles, so I'm excited for this nonetheless. On this show, we also have Momo Watanabe versus... I really can't speak today. Momo Watanabe versus Nene Takahashi. Now, Nene Takahashi was also known for her time in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling. Not too familiar with her work, but I hear she's a pretty big name, and it's a pretty big deal that she's facing Momo, so I'm excited for that match in that right. Who wins this match? It should be Momo. Like, Momo has been... Her booking has been kind of shaky lately. Very shaky lately. So I think a win over Nene will do wonders for her. So I'm going to go Momo to win this match. After this, we have Shiori defending her SWA Undisputed World Women's Championship against Konami. This is going to be an amazing matchup. Their styles are pretty similar. Stiff kicks, submission specialists. I'm actually super amped for this match now that I'm reading it. I think Shiori retains. If Konami wins, all the power to Konami. But I think Shiori's going to retain here. Next, we get into a rather controversial match. Mayu Iwatani versus Yoshiko. Now, Yoshiko is a very controversial name because a lot of Joshi fans know her as the woman who basically all but permanently injured a woman, a former Joshi wrestler in Stardom in 2015. And that was one of the catalysts for a massive walkout that happened in Stardom, and they had to do a rebuilding process over basically the next couple years. What was the woman's name? Let me look this up. Yoshiko Akikusa, that was her name, Akikusa. Akikusa, I believe, had to retire. She doesn't wrestle anymore. So many were very, very much on the fence about Yoshiko coming back to Stardom. Yeah, yeah. I think if you shoot and permanently injure somebody, there's grounds for blacklisting. But hey, that's me. I'm not in the wrestling business. Who am I to say she should be blacklisted? Mayu Iwatani versus Yoshiko. I don't know if they have a history with each other. If they do, I'm going to assume Yoshiko probably won their matches. Mayu Iwatani is the ace of Stardom. Or at least was the ace of Stardom. Now they're really positioning Utami in that role. At least as the champion right now. Mayu very much is still one of the prominent features of Stardom, though. I don't see why Yoshiko should win this match. So I'm going with Mayu Iwatani to win. But speaking of Utami and the ace of Stardom, we have Utami Hayashishita defending her World of Stardom Championship against Saya Kamatani, the innovator of the Shooting Star Press. I'm excited for this match as well. Former Goddesses of Stardom Tag Team Champions, Saya Kamatani has come a very long way since her debut in Stardom in 2019. Very, very long way. She's improved so much, and I think that she's definitely one of the best wrestlers in Stardom right now. Will she beat Utami? I don't think there's a chance on how she's beating Utami, though. Utami has not been champion that long. Saya Kamatani is still very, very new to pro wrestling. I think she started wrestling in late 2019. So, I don't think this is the time for her to win the champion. Sometime soon, maybe? Sometime soon, but now, not the time. Utami Hayashishita will retain, in my opinion. But then we lead into the main event. Giulia defending her Wonder of Stardom Championship against Tam Nakano in a hair versus hair match. Now this is interesting because I don't know if Stardom's ever done a hair versus hair match. And I also don't know if they're going all the way down to the wire with a hair versus hair match either. So are we going buzz cut or are we going like clip, 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 few inches off the hair? How are we doing this hair versus hair match? If this is the main event, they should be going buzz cut. It should be going all out. Hair comes off. Hair comes off. They've had 3 matches already. And if I'm correct, Giulia's won all 3 of them. So if you ask me, Tam Nakano's due back for her win. Tam Nakano also is the leader of Cosmic Angels, which is a newer faction in Stardom. Tam Nakano also has been in Stardom for a long, long time and has yet to win a singles championship in Stardom. Many opportunities, but has not been able to do it. But not been able to pull it off. Giulia has won so much so early in Stardom. I think it would be very ridiculous of them to have her beat Tam Nakano here. Like, if anything, Tam Nakano should beat Giulia, and then y'all could finally skyrocket Giulia and have her beat Utami for the World of Stardom Championship. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. But honestly and truly, I think it should be Tam. Giulia winning aside, Tam Nakano has been dodging and ducking winning that championship for so long. I think it's a great story to tell with her finally being able to beat Giulia for it. So I'm going to go with Tam Nakano to win the championship. Giulia's hair is already short. I feel like if anybody's going to want the bald look, it's probably going to be Giulia. I don't know how she's going to look bald. Somebody on Twitter did a picture of Giulia looking bald, and I busted out laughing. But I don't know, man. I think Giulia takes the L here. Now, as I always say, Donald DeMundo never loses, so I wouldn't put it past Stardom to have Giulia retain the title here. But I think Tam Nakano takes it. Maybe I'm naive. We'll see this coming Wednesday. Next Wednesday. But guys, that was Chill Spill episode 35. We went an hour and a half today. One of our longer episodes. What did you guys think? Comment down below. Let your boy know. Make sure you go to his socials. Check them all out. Go follow me on Twitter. Go follow me on Patreon. Go follow me on my second YouTube channel. Go follow me on Twitch. And go follow me on TikTok. That being said, guys, I will talk to you all later. Peace.